ask you a question, man. See if you know what's up. Peep this. Who fuses the music with no illusions, producing the blueprints? Clueless? Automator, defy the laws of nature. Electronic monolith, throw a jam upon the disc. The futuristic loop it with the quickness. Hyper-producing hydrogen fusion liquids. Keep your distance. Keep your distance. Who's that? The mastermind. Collaborate with time-consuming reprogramming. I apply the flow cannon, the combo so slamming, atomically reconstruct the whole canvas. His logic impress, a hypnotic effect. Yeah, Latin patent, you could call it a gift. Man, he all in the mix, nuclear physicist, genetically tailored every bit of this stimulus.
The day the walls of the cities will crumble away, uncovering our naked souls. All start singing, shouting, screaming.
The mastermind.
Psionically, bionically, forget how you feel, especially formulated. The rest of you fornicated, it takes more to make this. He juggles variables, unparalleled propulsion to carry the load. Neurosurgeon, the purest virgin, conducting currents, musical Merlin. He shine like Sterling. Watch automator draw a laser of a higher intensity and instantly miss a beat, create a symphony. Who's that?
The mastermind.
Who's that?
It's time for me to dead daddish.
Who's that?
The mastermind.
Who's that?
It's time for me to dead daddish.
Hey, I know now. Repeat. Automator's on the planet Earth and he's gonna stop the war of the world. Now how would he do that? Pete. Deltron Zero is here as well to click together for real. That's pretty good, man. Yeah, he told y'all evildoers he is truly gifted in the matters of rhythm. Yeah, I'll give him that. Yeah, you gotta give him that. With his infinite wisdom, you know you gotta get with him. How's that? How'd I do? Good job. All is well with the cosmos. Yes, I got the report. 30-30, yeah, man.
Let's take an in-focus look at this routine, which is designed to develop axial spinal elasticity. So we're referring to the body in its vertical position and standing, so that these different impulses we provide to the spine in the different areas are going to develop elasticity more along its axial plane. Of course, we can do elasticity work for the spine in different positions as well, for example, prone on the floor, and this will elicit slightly different qualities and build slightly different qualities at the same time. This routine is very nice, it's very, very convenient, and it's essentially open kinetic chain with relation to the spine, as the head is allowed to move freely in space and it's being used almost like a weight to elicit this elastic recoil, which is desirable for the quality that we're trying to develop. And the routine itself essentially works through 3 levels. The first level is concentrated around the cervical spine, and then we'll emphasize a little bit more of the work going through the thoracic spine, then around the lumbar spine areas, and then ultimately in the end incorporating the same quality to the more global spine. So the different qualities that we're going to elicit are going to work in different directions. So we'll firstly work with the main cardinal directions. So for example, north, south, west, and then east, or quite simply forward, back, left, right. That's fine as well. And then the ordinal directions as well. So northwest, north-south, southwest, southeast, or quite simply working then in the diagonals of that cross direction. One of the most difficult aspects of this work, and one of the main focuses of it, is precisely eliciting that rebound type quality from the tissues and from the entire spinal structure in general, as well as the isolated areas that we're focusing on. Of course, there's no possibility to isolate any part of the body, but we use this concept, for example, focusing more around the cervical region or the neck or the thoracic region or the middle of the upper back or the lumbar region, the lower back, in order to frame the work and to build a sensation that we're able to localize this type of elasticity in the different directions, and then ultimately seeing it come together into the global spine, whereby in this last part of the routine, we try to spread and equalize that elastic recoil evenly across the entire structure. When we go through each of the 4 parts of the routine, so cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and then global spine, after each one, we're going to somewhat mark those particular areas with a rotation using the weight of the head. And it's just going to go a few times in each direction. And this somewhat helps to consolidate the practice of that area with a little bit more of a tensile type of head rolling. One thing that is important and useful to emphasize here is that in both of these cases of practice, when working with the rebound and then when we're working with the rotations, as already mentioned, the head, it is a big old weight, so we essentially can use it to elicit the qualities of those movements. So for example, when I'm rolling the head, I feel, not that I'm just like passively empty, but I use the head to help direct the rotation. So for example, even if it's in the lower back here, I feel as if this head is leading with a load that I can sense and that I get feedback from and I can work with. And this works especially well, of course, for the elastic recoil qualities, in which we can get that nice boing, boing, boing quality of the rebound. So let's get stuck into the routine. So first of all, just find yourself just nicely grounded, soft knees, soft hips, and feel yourself also at the same time pulled up by this sensation of the hot air balloon whilst you're rooted down into the ground, feeling the heaviness of the body. And it's somewhat as if you're suspended between worlds, keeping the weight more or less in the middle of the feet, and just starting in such a way that you can notice the body's natural answer to gravity in sustaining its verticality. So this just helps us start from our 0 point. We're going to be using as well a little bit of a weight drop. So this is when I feel almost essentially as if the knees have been kicked from behind me, but it's going to be very, very subtle. It's not as heavy as when we're completely dropping the weight and emptying and resetting the baseline level of residual tone. However, we still use a little bit to elicit the rebound quality. Now, very important, especially as we're starting with the cervical area. If you do have some blockages or things in here that you are aware or unaware of, start please very, very sensitively, and you can always kind of increase the intensity of the dropping if it's required, either during the routine or during the weeks and months as you continue with the practice. So starting with the neck first of all, I'm just going to work, a maximum of 5 to 10 in each direction for the practice process. But once you're rolling with the routine and you start to elicit that elastic quality quicker, you can reduce the number of repetitions. But let's start with just 5 to 10 here. So just working here to my right side or the east, I'm going to drop, boing, and I just notice and feel the neck, boing, opening, and the natural rebound from the tissues and the skeletal structure and the skeletal muscular structure, eliciting that rebound. Now, in the initial instance, I'm changing directions now. In the initial instance, it is always a case, always a case of trying to find it. Did I get it that repetition? Bung. Did I get it? Bung. No, that wasn't it. That was a little bit more. It's constantly an act of trying to find the quality. When I'm working towards the front here, I will use the weight of the head, and one important thing is that this rebound should always elicit a response back to my standing 0 point. So try to avoid finding yourself just in the bottom position here or constantly just working down here. Ride the rebound all the way back up until it's woo, boom for each repetition. For the back, I can also open a little bit through the chest here rather than just isolating too much, very, very localized here to the cervical spine. I'm also going to just open just that little bit through the upper chest so I can catch the drop. Catch, catch, catch. Now when I work through the diagonals, again, I'm gonna just find, first of all, the angle, did I catch that angle, and then try to elicit that quality with just 3 to 5 repetitions, changing then to the other side, the other diagonal. It's nice just to switch between the opposite directions. And when I work again backwards, the diagonal to the right side or the southeast, whatever conceptual framework you're using. And then again, when I bounce from here on the last repetition, I'll ride it the way back to the other side. Boing, boing. And it takes me to the other side. So I work with my maximum of 10 repetitions, and then I work with the roll using the weight of the head a few times each side. It's quite soft and light rolls, just noticing the weight of the head. And again, just notice that this is somewhat localized more towards the cervical region of the spine. So I'm not, for example, coming lower down the spine yet. Almost like I have the head in a little bit of a bowl. Perhaps just 3 repetitions each side. And now we're going to move further down the spine to the thoracic region. And now this really, really helps if we can use a little bit of tactile feedback, as if I'm almost holding the spine. And this is the area which I want to elicit that bend from. And again, I use this sensual feedback of what it feels like to get that stretch shorten cycle and that rebound quality in that particular area of the spine that I'm trying to elicit it from. Again, coming down to the other side, but I really feel myself boom, boom, opening here, and you should be able to distinctly notice now that the area of emphasis has traveled lower down the spine towards the thoracic region, of course, as opposed to before just the cervical region. Now we're working toward the thoracic. Boom. Of course, then the other side. And this time, again, when I work towards the back, I am now going to open quite nicely, and I can almost even use a part of the weight of the arms and even the sensation of the opening from the shoulders and the chest to participate in this rebound quality. Boing, boing. And the same for the front here. As I come to the front, I'm actually slightly actively protracting as if I have like a small turtle shell on the top of my back, and I'm creating that shape, boing, but it's a very, very balloon-like elastic tortoise shell. And again, it helps to elicit this quality with that little added weight drop. If I don't have the weight drop, it is possible, but it can be much more difficult to elicit the elastic quality. But if I just have, just very subtly, boing, boing, boing. And again, we work through the diagonals. I feel myself really opening out. A very, very nice visualization is the concept of illuminating these lines that we almost even see in pieces of art and portraits and statues as well. If you think of this kind of position, it's like, this very kind of dramatic open position here, or this very kind of wounded position, we see these lines that are created through the structure, and this can be useful just to elicit the opening in the specific area that we're thinking of. Back to the other side, boing, 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 and of course, then working the other directions, bum, 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 bum. And generally, I would always work a few more reps in the main cardinal directions, forward, back, left, right, or north, south, east, west, and some fewer in the diagonals or the ordinal directions. Just as you will get the main idea and the quality of the elastic rebound, which is the main work from these main north, south, east, west directions. And then everything in between is somewhat just working to elicit the quality in those different angles, more for the physical layer, really, to have that quality feedback and develop that the quality of the spine itself. Moving now into the lumbar spine, again, be mindful that we don't find ourselves kind of localizing too much and kind of like just cranking in here, but we do want to start to feel that it's more kind of exploding outwards now through the here, this kind of area. So of course, localizing this more towards the lower spine, I like to think of this idea again, that something is boing, boing, boing. And of course, this is going to start to tie in with the hip regions. You'll feel it connected elastically all through here as well. Coming towards the other side, it's almost like I'm leaning and bung, pushing it outwards slightly, but then pulling it back, bung, bung, bung. And for the forward and backward directions here, I distinctly notice that it connects in with the area of the hip flexors and even the upper legs, all part of creating that innate elastic quality of the structure. So rather than, for example, just kind of leaning back on my lower back, I'm connecting all of these in this specific area. And here's the thing, if you feel you need some of this work in one area more specific than the other, let's say, for example, you know that in your lower back, it hasn't had as much elastic type of stimulus, or it's something that is going to be valuable for a project you're currently working, perhaps you might want to work a few more repetitions in that particular area. Again, now this kind of turtle shell that was on the top of my back here to help with the thoracic, I now feel it kind of hollowed more around the bottom here. So I feel like this kind of very old turtle now. His shell has perhaps sagged down towards his lower spine. So I just opening, boom, again that wasn't very good, boom, do I feel it, boom, change the angle slightly, boom, a little bit better, yep. Again we go through the diagonals, boom, boom, and again I have this nice idea of opening, boom, 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 working the other side, trying to return back to my my vertical position each time, boom, working in the other directions, a few repetitions, boom, 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 good. And lastly, we're going to visualize and emphasize the global spine. So this really does now help quite nicely. The idea of this long illuminated line through the axis and then just evenly bending. And again, for me, this kind of tactile feedback and visualization is very useful. I can even for a moment just kind of make the shape, feel it equalize, so it's not just the cervical, not just the thoracic, it's not just the lumbar, it's now opening. I can feel the weight evenly spread, so perhaps in the initial instance I might just mark these positions a little bit, kind of hanging almost just off of them, hanging off of them. And even for the reverse as well, again I want to make sure I'm not just in the lumbar spine, I'm not only in the thoracic, I'm not in the neck, but I feel it equalized. And a great telltale if I'm equalized is that I can still speak without it being very stiff with any change in the voice, as it's kind of equalized across my entire structure here. And for the forward as well, now I have this big, heavy turtle shell. So let's work with these positions and these ideas as we work with the west and the east. I'm going to open, boom, feel it, boom. Evenly distributed across the entire axial length of the spine. Boom, 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 boom. And of course then, we're really, every single repetition trying to find that optimal quality of the elastic rebound and also the optimal structure. So I might find, no, that was too much. No, too much lower. Bring it up a bit. Yeah, there we go. Feeling it more in there. This kind of active protraction as well, again, helps to elicit the rebound, almost like the idea of a balloon being stretched and boom, I'm coming back again. And then of course, with the diagonals or the ordinal directions here, working again, eliciting the elastic recall. And again, as with the other segments, we didn't demonstrate for the thoracic, but of course, when I'm working through these circles here after the thoracic, I'm going to work with an emphasis of the circle being drawn a little bit lower down the spine in the thoracic region, as opposed to the head region here. And of course, with the lumbar region, that the circle is going to be a lot bigger, and I feel an active contraction and support from the lumbar spine, is if I'm throwing the head around, so this would be my lumbar spine, is if I'm throwing the head around in this type of form, but of course this column is allowed to bend freely and sustain itself by virtue of its innate tensegral structure. So as I'm throwing around from the lumbar spine, of course its origin is a little bit lower. And lastly, coming to the global spine, I'm trying to, through each rotation, spread that around the length of that global structure. So these are the different parts of the routine. Just to clarify again, we're working in those different directions, forward, back, left, right, and the diagonals in between, with the elastic type quality. Maybe 3 to 5, or even just maximum 10 repetitions in each direction until you find the quality of the elasticity successfully elicited. Once you feel you've got that quality, just a few repetitions is fine, and then just keep moving on. Each time you go through those different directions, we're going to mark, so to speak, that particular area with just maybe 3 or 4 rotations of that segment. And then we move on to the next part, which would then be the thoracic area, and then the same for the lumbar area, and then lastly eliciting that elastic quality and the rebound from the global spine, and of course marking through that global spine area too.